Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jamie, and I am a digital associate of the space. I will give you a visual description for those of you who are listening in. I'm a white man in my 30s with brown floppy hair and questionable stubble. Today, I am delighted to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar, Reaching Audiences and Service Users Online, with our very special guest speaker, Angie McFarlane. This is the second webinar in a series of webinars designed for West Midlands Library Services on how to create your own digital projects. It is my genuine pleasure to welcome today's speaker. Angie joins us today from Let's Talk Creative Agency and is a digital associate at the space. And I will finally stop talking and let Angie take it from here. And I'm just going to pin Angie onto the screen now. Technology is not my strong point. And there we go. Thanks, Angie.
Thanks, Jamie. As Jamie said, I'm a digital marketing associate at the space, and my area of specialism is in audience development and marketing. In 2021 and 2022, I worked with Coventry Libraries on their Digital Spaces project and helped them, advising them on their audience development and marketing plan. And I'd like to just share some of those ideas and learnings with you today. Just as a visual reference, I'm a white woman in my 40s. I have blonde mid-length hair, glasses, and I'm wearing a stripy top. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Hopefully everyone can see that. And today we're going to be talking about reaching audiences and service users online. Basically, as a member of library staff, you're the expert on the people who visit your library, and you can leverage this knowledge to identify your digital audience for any digital project or experience that you might be working on. It's likely that your project could appeal to one or more of your regular library visitors and groups using your facilities. And by analysing the demographic data of those library users, both in person and online, you can determine exactly which age groups or professions or backgrounds might be interested. It's also worth conducting an audit of your social media channels because they're really useful in helping you to determine the kind of audiences that are engaging with you, what your reach is, what engagement is, what kind of content people are engaging with most. And that can give you a really good idea about what sort of things they might be interested in. Additionally, you can take a look at some of the digital content that the library already produces. So things just like your website, blog, and if you have any regular newsletters or message boards, anything like that that you have that is digital and in a digital space, it's always worth taking a look and seeing what the audiences are on there. And obviously, you can also just do direct user surveys with library users, whether that's in person when they come in, asking them to fill in a form, or sending them an email survey, a quick survey to just get an idea of their interest in what creative digital experiences they might find useful or be interested in experiencing. And then you can start to tailor your projects, which I'm sure in terms of projects and commissioning, which you might have heard in the previous webinar, it'll give you an idea of what kind of things you want to be looking for. So once you've identified your kind of known digital audience, the people that you know are likely to be interested, that's when you can start going around looking at finding new audiences. So what other groups could you reach with your experiences? So particularly, there might be a lot of people that don't currently benefit from your library services or are underserved by libraries, so you want to reach them. And these can be pretty hard groups to reach out to because they're of digital inclusion and they don't really have much access to things like that. So it's really worth doing your research on these and exploring how you can reach them. So it's worth exploring things like local community groups, people that are using your library, talking to them, finding out if there's any more groups locally who may really advantage from your creative and digital activities. You could speak to local institutions and organisations that you already have partnerships with, whether that's schools, universities, other cultural and arts organisations like museums or art galleries in your area. You may be wanting to explore things about wellness and health and well-being. So what sort of health organisations and hospitals and health groups and doctors' surgeries, they're all all these organisations that are part of the community could have audiences there that you're not reaching, that you could reach out to. You could also look at specialist interest groups and what, where people are interested in very specific content. For example, there might be a local sci-fi fan fiction group that are really interested in a Doctor Who experience or something in your library, or people that are interested in family history and local heritage that want to do some research into that. So, there's lots of different topics and interesting groups that you can find out more about and see if you can reach out to them and bring them in. You could also look at local charities that support marginalised groups such as disabled people, asylum seekers, or ethnic minorities, global majority. There's lots of different groups and support groups and charities that are out there that you might be able to partner with and find out more information from. And so it's by engaging with all these different communities that you can expand your library's reach and create more opportunities for people to enjoy your digital and cultural experiences. Once you've kind of established the kind of people that you want to target with your experiences, what you really need to do in the next phase of audience development, and a very important one, is developing some target personas of your audience and trying to understand them better. So it's kind of like doing a really deep dive into what their interests are and who they are. And so you'll want to consider a number of different things when you're trying to understand these people better. So things like demographic details such as their age, education background, family status, general interests and hobbies. Some libraries might have access to audience segmentation tools that can help them with this. These are quite expensive, or quite not totally accessible for all libraries, but if you're part of a big group, this might be something that your organisation has. It's also important to think about things like how your audience likes to communicate and engage with the library. So, do they prefer to use social media, or are they an email user and subscribe for emails and that's how they like to get the news? Or are they more interested in in-person events and traditional news and local papers and posters and print? What community organisations or other platforms are they engaging with? Are any message boards or organisations that they subscribe to that you might be able to reach them through that? So that's quite an important area to think about and make note of. Another thing to think about is exactly what the motivations are for why your audience is coming into your library. Why might they be coming in and participate in their projects? Is it to learn a new skill? Do they just want to engage in something creative and different and unusual? Or do they just want to connect with other people that are like them? So think about that in terms of why they want to come in, because this will be really important for you in terms of your messaging in the future. Another really important thing is to know what motivates, what digital and new technology people are familiar with, what their ability level currently is. It's really important to know this because some people might feel a bit put off by anything that looks a bit too technical or too tricky, and it's quite intimidating. So thinking about how you can make those services, any services, accessible to lots of different levels is really important, because again, that will feed into your communications and your marketing going forward. And when you've done the work on the communities and organisations as well, what you're wanting to do is know who they're already communicating with, who they already have an established relationship, because you may want to call on them or work with them in the future as a partner to try and reach those audiences. So once you've got your audience all identified and you know who you want to be targeting, that's when you're going to start putting together your marketing strategy. And I just preach this all the time, and everyone I work with gets very bored when I talk about it. But you need a plan. Have a plan. Have a good plan in place for promoting all your activity. You need to know exactly sort of when you need to do things and ensure everything's ready for your launch. So having a timeline of activity of when these will happen initially is the first part of the plan. You can fill in gaps later and add in a lot more detail, but having a really good idea of when the key milestones of that project are going to need to happen are key. You should also consider the different channels you're going to use when you're going to promote your project. So having done your research, you're going to know where your target audience is most likely to be, and then you're going to plan where you need to have the information about your project. So does it need to be going across social media? Do you need to have an email newsletter? Do you need to set up a web page? So yeah, just keep remembering to refer back constantly to those audience personas and focus on the channels that your target audience uses. Create a list, what I call usually a seeding list or a partner list of organizations or the platforms that you're going to want to target to reach your audience. And, consider details about what, their audience reach is and what their channels are and how you could actually reach out to them and contact them. Do you have connections already, or is this something that you're going to have to research? Another important thing to consider is your visual identity. So with Coventry, we created a whole new visual identity for digital spaces. I'm not saying you have to do that for your digital project, but it's just really important to think about creating a very distinct look and feel for your project so people will remember it and recognize it when you promote it and it starts to become familiar to them. You need to think about the content you're going to share and how you're going to communicate that. So again, thinking about what the key motivations were for your audience and what their interests are. You want to make sure you plan what you want to say and how you want to say it. You'll need to create, once you've got all that in place, you'll need to create some creative assets to help you promote your project. So this will be your web landing page where you've got all the information about how people can access your project, how they can use it. If there is technical details involved, they might need explanations of how to use it. There might be a Q&A. All that information needs to go on your web page. You'll want photography images that you're cleared to use, social media graphics. A lot of libraries, and with Coventry and other libraries I speak to, a lot of people like Canva for creating their graphics, and it's a really simple, easily accessible tool to make really professional looking graphics and posters for your projects. And if your digital project has a visual element, you might want to look at creating some video or audio visual footage. So, have a think about what it is you're going to need to really get across what your content and your project is, and make sure that you produce the assets that you'll need to get those across. And then once you've got all that together, you will need to create a publishing plan that outlines when and where you'll be promoting your project, what elements of your project you're going to promote. So everything is coordinated and ready to go when you're ready to launch your project. These are just some of the marketing tools that you can use to reach your target audience. You can use a combination of these. You don't have to use all of them, but it's important to have as broad a mix as possible. So things like the website and landing page we've talked about already, emails, newsletters, local media and listings, posters and flyers. It's old school traditional advertising, but having a poster or a flyer around the libraries and around the community is a really good way of getting, especially reaching those audiences that can be difficult to reach digitally. Adding QR codes to your posters now is just a great idea, because then people can just quickly snap it and get a link to your web page or the digital experience itself and experience it very quickly, to get an idea of more information. Social media is still one of the best platforms for reaching out to new audiences. If you use popular and relevant hashtags on social media, or collaborate with some of your partners and tag those, you can make sure that you reach bigger, larger audiences with your messaging. You can do tripping on my words, community outreach with all those groups and special interest groups and charities, anyone that you've identified in that original audience development plan and your publishing plan, and ask them to spread the word about your project within the community. And you can usually do this just by sending them some sample copy and some links and some nice graphics. So it's all ready for them to just copy and paste very easily into their own templates and their own social media. And it takes a lot of effort because everybody's stretched. There's so few people in a lot of these organizations. So the more you can provide for people to share is really helpful and will ensure that it gets amplified much more widely. You could organise a little event or demo for people to come in to the library and try things for themselves. And another thing is to invite local creatives, artists, influencers, anyone who's quite prominent or very, community involved in the area. They might be interested in coming to review your experience or give you an endorsement and share that on their own social media. And that again can help you reach new audiences. So there's a real mix of different marketing tools and approaches that you can take. So which social media channels should you be using right now? And it's important, I think, really to choose the right platform based on your content, and where your audience is, and also the ones where your target audience might be. So this is just a very simple breakdown of sort of how they position themselves and how they work these days. And so Facebook, we all know, is great for cultivating and building a community around your library and your work. It's very easy to promote events via Facebook. And you can connect with lots of different Facebook groups and new Facebook groups. You can get in touch with them and post details about events through those. It's also one of the biggest and most established platforms, so it still counts for a lot of community led projects. If your project is maybe more visual, or you're targeting a slightly younger demographic, then Instagram is definitely the way to go. It's really good for showcasing creative experiences through either eye-catching photos or reels. And it's really good for collaborating with other artists or authors, influencers, other organizations. And collaboration is really is a really good way of really amplifying your posts right now. And the Instagram algorithm really does like a collaboration, and you will definitely reach more people if you can take part in those and establish a few of those for your project. And Instagram stories, obviously, that's a great way to keep your followers just updated very quickly on any news, events, or any quick behind the scenes fun bits of content that might not quite fit in the feed or as a post anywhere else, but you can show it in stories because it's much more instantaneous and spontaneous, interesting content. Um, if you're looking to reach journalists, local media, news outlets, then Twitter is still a great choice for that. It's perfect for quick updates, sharing news, and although links are not prioritized as much anymore, it's still valid. It's still important to put your links in there. But when you want to get that information out quickly, that is still the platform of choice. And then TikTok, which is great for reaching younger teen audiences and younger adults. Um, it's definitely really good for researching new trends and interests. Obviously, with Book Talk and Library Talk, there's a lot of book content on there, and there's a lot of digital, and people on there are very highly engaged. So if you have got a project which is very specifically for younger people, then you should definitely be considering looking at TikTok for your library. So this next few slides, I'm going to talk about now we've identified your audiences, is keeping them engaged once your project is up and running, how you can keep people being aware of it and how you can keep people coming and taking part. So one of the key things is focusing on the content. Digital technology can be very overwhelming and intimidating for some people. So it's important to keep a focus on what the content is that you want to get people interested instead of the format. So think about what it is about your digital experience that might make it more interesting, exciting, or moving. Um, are there any stories you can extract from that or themes that you can talk about? Um, and can you make these stories come to life? How can you explain to people how they can experience something different or new from the comfort of the library? But it could be, that they could go climbing Mount Everest or encounter some gorillas in a rainforest if it was a VR project, for example. Or they could make something which they can take away from the library and keep. So it's those things that you need to focus on. What it is that the audience will really experience and benefit from. Another thing that's really important with digital experience is making sure it's when it comes to describing something digital, I think it can be really tricky to put it into simple words to fit in a Twitter post or an Instagram caption. So sometimes it's just better to show people what it's like through images or videos of people actually using and experiencing the technology or the creative experience that you've got running in the library. Um, it's capturing those reactions of people when they're, the curiosity when they discover something or they try something new for the first time. It helps others to see how far more exciting something can be, and those images are more likely to make people think, oh, I'm going to give that a try myself, rather than trying to explain to them in words what the experience is. It might be too difficult a concept for people to grasp. It's also quite good if you're actually using some new technology to create videos, little videos. It could be an Instagram reel or a TikTok, but of the library staff using it and offering their own tips and advice on how to work it. It's especially useful when you're just starting out and people haven't had a chance to experience that. You haven't been able to capture the users in that experience. Your own library staff could also show the same amazing reactions and also give their thoughts and tips on how to use the content. And then the other thing that you could do is just organise some live events, demos or experiences, and let people come and try it out for themselves, little try it out sessions, if that's something that's available to you in your library. So that show don't tell is something that I think is really important with a lot of experiences. So I think keeping that in mind with all your digital experience is really key. So the other thing is tailoring your digital project. You've done all that work identifying this audience and what their interests are and what their preferences are. So it needs to be really important that you tailor that experience for them. And a great way of doing this is to work with other local artists and content creators who are already very knowledgeable about the themes or the technology or the audience that you're working with. And they can help foster that sense of community with online groups and make them feel involved and part of the whole experience. When people feel connected in this way, they're more likely to continue to use your services over time or either recommend those services to family and friends and suggest that they go along. So making them feel that the project is really for them, and showing that you've listened to them and you've given them a project that's perfect for what they are interested in is a great way of engaging an audience. And one of the most important factors for the success of any project that I've worked on is keeping your audience interested and involved. And one of the best ways of doing that is inviting feedback and user-generated content. And you can do this by just simply encouraging users to share their experiences using hashtags and their images of themselves taking part, and then sharing them on social media. It gives you something to then share again on your social media, and it's a lot of very simple but great content that you can use. And you can retain that and you can put that up on your website, and it's there for testimonials for future, for people to come up and see, for reviews, and it stays there for a long time. Another way of gathering feedback is by setting up a system whereby people can give them that as the project's ongoing. So that could be as simple as a feedback slip. When people come in, when they finish, they can just fill it in and leave it with the library. Or, I mean, for Coventry, they gave people these brightly coloured stars and a pen to write on their experience and what they thought, and then posted it on a pin board in the library. And these, I mean, they, apart from being great feedback, they just looked fun and interesting and provided eye-catching content for people to take photos of and put up on social media. So it did the job of attracting people and in the library itself and online. And it was a really simple way for people, low effort way for people to give their feedback. Or you could implement a more robust system with it. You could set up a questionnaire or an email so people could feedback to you constantly. And this can then be really useful for you to understand if there's anything you need to change about the project or the experience, or if there's something that they'd like to see more of, and develop and evolve that experience for your audience, because now you've got them through the door. Is there more things that you can provide for them? So keeping on with the feedback and constantly using that as part of the project and seeing that as part of the project is really key. And finally, I think the key thing is with any project is consistent communication. When you're marketing a digital experience to someone who uses the library services, it's crucial to keep in touch with them constantly and regularly and keep updating them when there's something new or anything's changed. This way they feel connected to the library, and you can make sure that people know what's going on and what's happening in your library. It's equally important as well for it not to be just one-way communication. So, make sure you're responsive and do answer any questions or comments that may come into an inbox, or if someone posts something on social media, ensure that that gets responded to. And by doing so, you'll build better relationships with your library users, and it'll encourage them to keep using those digital experiences and services with you. So essentially, it's just keeping those lines of communication open at all times and making sure that people don't feel like when they get in touch, it goes into a void. They'll feel more valued, and you can ensure that their trust and loyalty will continue on, and you can constantly give them more exciting and interesting experiences going forward. So that's it. Really simple and straightforward, I think. Any questions?
Amazing. Thank you, Angie. I really appreciate that. And it's just brilliant to have you speak, and it's so useful to have kind of really, really practical advice and kind of tips on how to reach different audiences and users online. I have a few questions, if that's okay. And I will, again, if anyone wants to drop any questions into the chat, please feel free. One question, just as I was listening, and now I've got to try and read my own handwriting, because I was making some notes as we go across. As we know, libraries are so much more than just a place where you can borrow books. They're real kind of hubs for the community for so many different users. I wonder what might be your approach to kind of reaching hard to reach audiences, for example, those whose first language might not be English, but still want to use kind of the library services, and we might want to get them involved in the kind of digital creative projects as well. Might this be kind of more image-based work? Might it be translation? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I mean, that's the thing that I was saying about show, don't tell. That image, showing those images, showing those videos, sorry, excuse me, of people experiencing those experiences, I think is really key. One of the projects that we did with Coventry Libraries was with a group of South Asian women, and it was on their cultural heritage, and they came to the library and they worked with a group and it was that partnership with those local organisations. So it was a crafts company did the jewellery, and then there was also a charity that worked with these women, and they came together to put on these workshops. So there was language barriers were helped, obviously, because they had people that were there that could translate. But then after that, the imagery of the event was shown and exhibited, and the jewellery that they made and how that tied in with their heritage. So it was of interest to their audiences and the wider community, because they could come in and see what their friends and family had made and could identify with that lifestyle, that the heritage of that family and what they were making and the stories they were telling. So again, it's all down to those personal stories. So it's personalized, it shows what they can do. I think that's the key to getting those audiences in.
Beautiful. I'll try and find a link quickly to that work, because I know it's online, so it'd be good to show everyone. I'll try and drop that in the chat. And do you have any other kind of favourite examples of digital marketing strategies in libraries or community organisations that you've seen that you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I mean, obviously, one of my favourites is Orkney Library. I'm sure a lot of libraries are probably familiar with them already, but they've built such a great, genuine and strong connection with their audience just by being very transparent and authentic with their Twitter account and social media accounts across all of them. They always had a nice fun touch to their posts, a sense of humour and a bit jokey and irreverent, and it just makes them even more entertaining and engaging, and people respond to that. I think it's so obviously we mentioned TikTok earlier, and I think that's quite an interesting space for libraries at the minute. But I think it's mainly quite a lot of US-based public libraries are the ones that are really making the most of that platform right now. And there's a couple that have gained quite a big following just from creating quite high quality, very high quality, but quirky original content. And what they're doing is they're incorporating the latest TikTok trends and tags to make the content that that audience on TikTok really respond to. But it's just, expanding out their audience. Cincinnati Public Libraries is one that have done a couple of really fun posts that are definitely worth watching that have gone viral. And Milwaukee Public Libraries as well. They've got quite high production values with those. They obviously put a lot of time and effort in, and I'm not saying that libraries should expect to do the same, but I think it's really inspirational to look at things like that every now and again and think about what might appeal to your audience and how you could sort of replicate that for your market. So community wise, there was the one we were talking about just now, craft space with the Asian women and the jewelry making. But another one with Coventry was the Caravan Gallery, and that's a co-creation community project that they did at Tower Hill Library called Pride of Place. And it was a lot of photography and working with the local community and going around the popular local areas. They went on walks, and then people could bring in their photos of their favourite places around the area, and then it went on display. And they take some beautiful photography on their social media and share about their stories travelling around the country in their distinctive little yellow caravan, which gives them that visual identity, which we talked about earlier on. And another one I really love it's a newish one that they've got a tiny following at the minute, but it's a company called Boston Creative, who are a community arts and theatre company in the Black Country. And they're just producing some lovely content at the minute, and it just speaks very directly to their audience. And it plays to the strengths of the platforms they're using. The content that they're producing is very much for the platforms that they're on. So yeah, definitely check those out. They're some of the key ones I think are really nice to look at.
Amazing, thank you. And I've just dropped the link in the chat for all of those, and we'll make them available within the notes as part of this as well. Thank you, Angie. Brilliant. And for those who work in libraries who'd love to engage with their audiences via social media, do you have any advice for those who want to do so but are also working within the remit and control of the local authority and their kind of systems and processes?
Yeah, I mean, it can really vary from library to library, but yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is the planning ahead. So as long as you've got your plan in place and you've got your content together and you know your schedules, I think it's really important to get that, because I know you're fighting with the local authorities with lots of other departments to get your content out there. So the more you can plan and prep in advance to provide them, it makes sure that they share it when you want it and how you want it. So yeah, getting that publishing plan in place, sharing that with your local authority teams, and always following up and make sure they've got what they need to publish it when they're meant to publish it is key, I think, and keeping those communication lines open.
Amazing. And as we know, I mean, kind of audiences and people coming into libraries and just general kind of user behavior has changed so much in the last few years. How are you seeing digital audience behavior kind of changing now, kind of post-pandemic in 2024?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think we're moving past the pandemic. I think it is behind us now, and we've adapted to this new hybrid way of life. I think people are familiar with that, or most people are for sure. But I think the flip side of that is people are wanting to step away from screens a bit more and enjoy real world experiences. And we're quite welcoming any opportunities to do that. But at the same time, there is this expectation that there will be a digital version. We will have digital access at some level. I think that's kind of the balance that libraries and other organisations are having to strike at the minute, because we don't obviously have endless pots of money or time. But I think that's why sort of immersive creative experiences are proving so popular. When people go out now, they want to experience that culture and feel engaged and part of something that's exciting and special. So it could be art installations now. There's lots of immersive art installations where you can interact with them, or virtual reality experiences, exhibitions that have sort of something that engages all the senses, not just visual. There might be audio as part of that, or sensory experiences that you can take part in, or it might be live theatre with a digital element. So there's a lot of combinations of different things that people are trying, so people just get more than the very linear experience. And I think there's a lot of room for growth in that area, and it's quite exciting to see what people could come up with.
Yeah, perfect. And my almost penultimate question would be, kind of, what do you hope for the future of digital creativity in libraries?
I think I'd just like to see. I mean, it's a tough time for libraries at the moment, but those are doing well are the ones that are really investing in their digital resources and digital creativity, and starting to explore how they can bring people in. I think it kind of touches on that comment, what I was saying about people wanting to experience things in person as well as digitally. So I think, libraries are such an essential part of life and places for people, that it'd be great to see more libraries serving as hubs for digital storytelling and production, whether that's offering workshops or training classes, or just the resources there for underserved audiences to come in and have a go and collaborate with others or make things. I think that's the way I think I see it going, and it is happening in some areas, definitely. I think that will definitely be a focus.
Amazing, thank you. And Andy, final question for any library services or individuals that want to get in contact with you for your expert support and advice and services. How can people get in contact with you?
I will send you my website, and then you can get in touch with me. I'll just pop it on the chat.
Amazing. Perfect. Thank you, Angie. And I think that those are all of my questions, and there are no more questions in the chat. So I think we can call it a day there. Angie, thank you so much. You've been really brilliant. It's been so fascinating to listen to you.